Hello and welcome back to my channel. So today I have another Sims 4 speed build for you, and this build got out of hand in the best way possible. So October 26th was National Pumpkin Day, so I was like, okay, for stream I'll just stream, building a cute little pumpkin house, right? Well, it became a 5.5 hour stream, and honestly I didn't think I was gonna last the usual 3 hours with this kind of build. But I was there for 5.5 hours building this, and I am in love with the way it turned out, like in love. So it became this like really adorable, cozy fall, like autumn vibes, and it was fantastic. And so when I made my birthday cake house a while back, I swore I wouldn't do curved walls like ever again. And here I was using curved walls again. And honestly, it was not as bad this time. So it did work out, I must say, very well. And so I'm sitting here trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I do like the pumpkin stem and maybe some leaves, and trying to figure out what shape I want, like what makes it look the most natural, given that we're kind of limited in the kind of shapes we can draw when we're building in The Sims. And so I decided to do these little like triangular pieces off of the stem, and this stem actually ends up being the back door to the house and will lead out to the backyard. And then the front of the build would be, I guess, the bottom of the pumpkin. So you enter through the bottom of the pumpkin and you leave through the stem, which it makes more sense when it's like on a lot. And here I've actually placed it on a huge like 50 by 40 lot because I didn't know how big this was going to be. And later on I do end up moving it because there was no way I was about to landscape this whole lot. Like that was going to take so long. So I moved it to a 30 by 20 later on. So if you randomly see like a change in scenery, that's because I moved this lot because it just wasn't like fitting super well. And what I ended up doing was actually building this in the fall season in the game, which meant that I created a sim and put them on the lot during the fall season. So then when you're in build mode, you can actually see all the beautiful fall colors and like all the different trees and everything, because I just really wanted to have that beautiful autumn like vibe here. And so I finished up the stem, and it was actually really funny when I do move around the build later on, like it like left behind some of the greenery, so I had to redo part of it. And of course, like creating this to be a medium versus like short wall height, I had to go back and add more greenery. I was like, no, after I spent so much time doing it, I had to go back and add some more. But it really honestly like didn't take too long to actually put those back. But stream was so much fun. Be sure to check out the link in the description to my Twitch channel if you ever want to come hang out and build. I had some great suggestions from my chat. Like we were like feeding off each other. It was wonderful. Like all the ideas, we end up adding like a pumpkin patch outside and a pumpkin carving station. I mean, it was amazing. Like multiple people in my chat were like, pumpkin patch, pumpkin patch, pumpkin patch. Like, and it's amazing. Like it just turned out so great. And I ended up actually making this a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, which I was honestly really shocked about. I really didn't think I was going to be able to fit that in there. And you could see I was having some issues with the rounded walls for whatever reason. It didn't like where I was trying to draw walls, and I don't know why. Like I have no clue why it was upset, but you know what? I work around it and we figure it out. And so I end up kind of creating these like little like corners of the pumpkin end up being the 2 bedrooms, and the smaller pieces end up being the bathrooms. And then I end up putting that like random piece of wall there as like a partition for the space because it was so long there down the middle, so that you have this really nice separation of this like common living space. And then behind it we actually end up putting like an office and like a skill building kind of area. So right here, right when you walk in, you walk right into this beautiful, like I was going to call it a chimney, beautiful fireplace. I always do that. And this huge living room, like, and I ended up like, of course, bringing in a bunch of orange. It's a pumpkin, but I ended up using these beautiful couches that have other really pretty fall colors, like the reds and purples and greens. And honestly, that kind of set the tone for the whole build. Like it just became like, I think this is the point where it became not like this like silly pumpkin build, but really like an actual beautiful home. And I'm so excited about it. I used the gorgeous basket with like the pumpkin pillow in it. I mean, it was perfect. Like I couldn't have asked for anything better. I end up using like the deep green on those stacked boxes, and I pull that into the kitchen as well. I mean, the kitchen is really functional, and I think honestly, you can't really tell that it has crazy curved walls with the way I built it, which I'm really happy about. And I will say though, the curtains gave me such a hard time in this build. Like they never wanted to clip to the window properly. And you can see that the windows aren't perfect on this build because it is curved walls, but I wanted to use medium wall height windows that were orange. This basically was the only option, and so it just didn't curve to the wall. But once the curtains go on, you can't really tell that there was any kind of issue. But just so you know, if you download this off the gallery, like they might look a little odd, but honestly I don't think you'd really notice. And this is already up on the Sims 4 gallery, so feel free to download it and live your best autumn life in this house, or obviously change it if you would like to, especially if you want to use it just for like a circular floor plan, because it takes a while to deal with, and I know a lot of people don't want to deal with these circular walls, but you know, they like the idea of it. And I end up doing this really cute dining room over here and pulling in so that beautiful red from the living room, and honestly we use it throughout. It's actually like a pretty prominent accent color in the parents' bedroom, and then we end up having 2 kids in the kids' bedroom. And honestly, the kids' bedroom was the hardest part about this build, like trying to decorate it. Like it went really smoothly up until that point because I don't know what it was, and I'll talk about it more when I get there, but like the rest of the build actually went really smoothly. Like you can see me pulling out all these random items and objects all over the place, and it's because I'm going through and I'm like, oh, I want to use this and I want to use this and I want to use this somewhere in the build. I just wasn't sure where yet, so I started stockpiling items, especially like behind that wall partition. Like there were just a ton of items back there. And so I'd originally started by putting maybe an island, but I was like, this isn't working super well. So I end up actually drawing a half wall there to separate it, which gave me more wall space for counters. And the fridge does work in that corner, even though it's kind of on that curved wall piece. It works just fine. And I was having a bit of a crisis here trying to figure out what tile I wanted to use in the kitchen, because I wanted it to be different than like the orange wall that I had in the rest of the space. Like I wanted it to have its own like wallpaper, and I did not add the wallpaper to the rounded part of the wall that's part of the kitchen, because you can see there it like, because it's a round wall, it like forces it to paint that whole piece, and it didn't really match the kitchen space, so we just do it on this one wall. But I end up going with this stone because I felt like that was just warm and cozy and fall-like, so we end up using that stone throughout the build as well as a nice accent. I actually end up using it in both of the bathrooms, and I think that looks actually really cool in there. And then I use the beautiful burgundy set from the, I think it was the Country Kitchen kit, and I've never used that swatch before, but it is beautiful. Like that is such a gorgeous burgundy maroon color. I was so excited about that, and it felt like at this point it's kind of like, you got a lot of colors going on, but honestly I really think it ties together nicely with all of the clutter and decor that we add. And that half wall also makes it possible to put in like a little table there, and I use that piece, I think that's from Cottage Living, in the living room. I'm thinking maybe, not in the living room, in the kitchen. I'm thinking that's maybe where they do maybe some canning or preserving, that kind of thing. And because since we do have like a pumpkin patch outside and a place for you to garden, like I felt like that kind of made a lot of sense there. And we do actually end up swapping that out for a cornucopia that I find later. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is perfect. Like we have to put this here. So there's pumpkins everywhere and just fall things everywhere. And I even like the kind of funky overhead light I used. I think that was from Decor to the Max, I think. But I thought it actually pulled this together really nicely. And then putting in this like buffet kind of sideboard table in the dining room. And I found that gorgeous piece. You saw that I kind of threw it outside. I think it's from eco lifestyle, I believe. And it has like, it looks like basically you'd put it outside where you're gardening, and it has a bunch of gardening stuff on it. I don't know. I feel like I've never seen that item before. Like, we were on stream and I was like, oh my gosh, did I not know this existed? So I was so excited. We put it out in our pumpkin patch. So don't worry, it like does travel when we move lots, and I do still use it, but it's just floating outside for a while. And I'm pulling out like all of the potential clutter for this kitchen, and I'm gonna say I put a ton of clutter in here, a ton. And I was a little worried when I was on stream, like, that I put too much clutter and your Sims wouldn't be able to cook, and sure enough, I was correct. Your Sims would not be able to cook, but I fixed it, so what's on the gallery should be totally fine. You should be able to cook. I didn't have any issues once I actually sized down. So you can see that like red casserole dishes on the ground. I end up putting it next to the fridge, and I end up just sizing it down once, and that fixed the problem and let them actually cook on that piece of counter. But of course, if you have issues, you can take more clutter out if you would like to, and be sure to use bb.move objects when you place this slot, because it will delete a bunch of stuff if you don't, is my guess, because I have stuff just kind of squeezed in everywhere, and I just thought it was so beautiful. And I like the idea of having all these fruits and everything, like maybe they had those in their backyard, or they went to an orchard and got those beautiful apples. Like, I mean, really, I'm very much romanticizing like the autumn fall season. And it's not even my favorite season. We're coming up on my favorite, and that would be winter. So I'm very excited and looking forward to some builds for that. And I did use those beautiful leaf curtains that came with the Dream Home Decorator kit. And in this bathroom, I made that like the everyone can access bathroom, like it's not an ensuite, especially I have guests and stuff like that. And I just put a bathtub in here because I just love the idea of having a nice clawfoot tub in this house and like putting it by the window. And I'm not gonna lie, at this point I still didn't know what I was gonna do with that other small room. I really was thinking about it being an office, maybe a laundry room, but ultimately we decide that it's going to be an ensuite for the parents' bedroom. And then, like I said, we put that office space behind that like partition wall that I had created in here. And it looks so rustic, but kind of like, I mean, not necessarily modern, but more contemporary, I guess. I think that's what I'm trying to say. And I think it just looks so nice in here and just really fitting for a lovely family. Of course, you don't have to play with it that way, but that's just like, I made it fit very well for a family. And so I add in some extra bookcases here that almost make it look like it's one big piece. And then I end up actually putting in I think it's the Dream Home Decorator like career board between them. Like it fits perfectly. Like originally I was going to put some like degrees and awards and stuff like that on the wall, but I ended up going with the Dream Home Decorator job instead. So maybe one of them does that, or maybe not. I just thought it looked really nice when I put it there. And I honestly just didn't think a whole lot about their professions, but I feel like you've got several options here. And then we use that like really cool like old school desk lamp, which I think looked so nice there. And then I think I actually put some of like the awards and degrees on top of the bookcases. Like they just kind of set them up there for display purposes. So I believe that's what I did. Yeah. So I was like, I'm pretty sure I did that. And after a 5.5 hour stream, I'm surprised that I even remember any of this stuff. Like I can't believe I was building for that long, but it was so wonderful. And we end up putting a chess table in here, so having some stuff for your Sims to do. And I end up putting a couch over on the other side. And I also put like some knitting and crocheting supplies, so your Sims can take up those hobbies and sell if they'd like to. And then I end up just putting, a little bit of clutter around that couch as well. But honestly, I kind of left it because I wasn't sure at this point what I wanted to do with that space, to be honest. So we do return to that in a little bit. And so this is going to be the parents' bedroom. And honestly, I was going through all of the rugs trying to figure out what rug I wanted and what I felt like would fit with this home, and then let that guide what I was going to do. I was trying to use like an orange bed, but it just was not working. So I actually ended up using this bed in the red swatch, and it looks so pretty. Like I love the way it looks. And I do end up actually using a different curtain in this room because it fit better, I think. Like the leaves just didn't fit quite right in this home. And then I ended up just putting in actually what looked like chests, like the two chests stacked on top of each other. I think it came with the werewolf pack. I used that as their dresser in here because it just looked really nice and rustic to me. And we end up putting some pumpkins on top of that for more autumn, like pumpkins everywhere, bringing that inside. And then just, yeah, hanging up a plant here in the corner. And then I end up just putting a mirror and then a seating space over by the window. I put just like a single chair over there. So it's not like a ton of room, but where someone could maybe go read and hang out and have some quiet peace in that bedroom. And then just adding in a nice autumn in here. And I think it's interesting that this room has a ton of colors in it, but I think it honestly like works really well together. I do swap out that chair because it just wasn't fitting quite right. You can see me trying to adjust it and trying to make it work, but it just wasn't, it just wasn't happening. I don't know if you've ever done that. Like you're like, I want this to work, but it just doesn't. You have to abandon that. So we end up using that high back chair, which actually we use the matching couch out in kind of that like skill building space that I was talking about earlier. And then I use that beautiful cluster of pictures there on the wall that I think that came with the paranormal pack. And then just putting a little bit of clutter on those end tables. And those end tables, I think were blocking the bed. It didn't like that when I was like play testing it, but I shifted those around and your sim should be fine now when you download it. But if you're still having an issue, you can just kind of push those back into the wall. And then for their ensuite, I decided that I wanted to put a shower in here because I figured you should have a shower in here because I feel like Sims, like they clean up faster in a shower than they do in a bathtub. So I made like a double wide like standing shower and then just put like a window there to make it a little more open. And I don't know, I guess you would close the window if you were, actually showering, but it's the Sims. They don't actually account for the fact that there's a giant window there by their shower, and I just thought that it looked really pretty. And then I ended up just putting these beautiful burgundy towels and a robe over there, and that's basically just kind of the finishing touches I end up putting in this space. And finally using that picture, I tried to use it in a bunch of places throughout this build, but it seemed to fit there the best. And we come to the kids' room. Like I said, this was very difficult for me trying to fit stuff in. Like, I don't know. I guess because I didn't feel like maybe there were good like singular beds and how that was going to fit in a curved room and like have enough space and to be able to match, like being able to match all of these like warm colors. And I struggled so much, like, and I did not like the way this was looking. Like, it was bothering me so much. And then I realized cottage living existed. And cottage living has that awesome wallpaper that has those like mushrooms and bunnies on it, and that just took this room in a whole nother direction, and I'm so happy with the way it came out. It just seems really like whimsical while still having that really nice fall aesthetic. And I was so happy when I found that because I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I literally, you can see I'm trying everything. I was just like, this isn't working. This carpet's not working. I don't like anything. And so I end up actually using these orange beds, and then I end up using that wallpaper that I was talking about, and then I swap out the rug for the rug from Cottage Living because it actually has bunnies and mushrooms and stuff on it, and I end up actually using a mushroom as their end table there between their beds. Like, so I'm still struggling. I promise it comes together. This is the point where I was like, oh my gosh, I know what I'm gonna do now. I finally figured it out. I was so excited when I figured it out, and I used like the green from the walls and on the mushroom and kind of used that throughout this room as well. And we have a really cute like sitting area where they can go sit on the floor, play with a dollhouse. They have a toy chest in here as well. And I used that whimsical painting of those animals having a tea party in here because I just thought that was really cute. And then using, I think it's the Eco Lifestyle dollhouse in here. And I wanted to put something over in the corner, but I wanted it to be something that wouldn't necessarily have to be used because I don't think they'd be able to get to it. So we put the giraffe over there, and it just looks so cute. And I end up using, there's a decal from Seasons that we end up using on the wall that I discovered recently in my Halloween apartment that I built. And so we do pull that out, and I end up using it. And I do throw that little bunny with all the little pumpkins over there next to a mirror for them. And then I think I also end up putting a toy over there as well because it just felt a little bit empty. And I ended up putting some beads in the window, and I felt like that made it a little more childlike. and made more sense. And then using that, actually you can make that on a crafting table, the kids can. And of course they had those lights that actually had leaves on them, and I was like, this is perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. And so this is the point where I'm trying to figure out what I want to put here, and having a bit of a crisis here as well, but it doesn't take as long to figure out as it took me to figure out what to do with the kids' bedroom. So I just kind of put a bunch of clutter stuff around and make that work there. And that lamp is actually from, I think, I was going to say the Wolverine pack. Oh my gosh. Like, is that, no, that's not right. Werewolf. Where did Wolverine come from? My goodness. The werewolf pack. And I end up making that space right next to the door kind of like a mudroom. So we put a little bit of storage in there, and I put a backpack over there. Like maybe that's where they go out to the garden and where they come in and, you know, maybe take their shoes off, like wipe their shoes, that kind of thing. And maybe store some stuff in those cabinets for when they go outside to the garden. And we end up also having like a fire pit out there, which is like a whole lot of fun. I've got some amazing footage of this family outside with like the falling autumn leaves. Like it was so cute. Like I love this so much. And I will say, so on my stream, like I've been having issues with like my camera lagging. So oddly enough, it's because of my reshade. Or when I turn my reshade off, it works. So you can tell I'm not really using my reshade on this, but I do use my reshade when I take screenshots, because when I turned my reshade on, it was beautiful. Like it's gorgeous. Like the colors are so vibrant and like just amazing. So the screenshots will have the reshade on it, so if it looks a little bit different, that's why. But honestly, I turned it on after stream and I was like, this is perfect. And I will say I upgraded some stuff on my computer, so I'm gonna try and see if I can stream with my video and and be able to use the reshade at the same time. I don't know what it was. Maybe it just took a little too much out of my computer to have the reshade on, as well as trying to stream and record and like, you know, do all of the things at the same time. So anyways, that's a long story, but to tell you that there's a reshade in these screenshots. And I basically pulled out a bunch of trees here to create like a forest around this home, because it just felt like that would be really nice to have. And again, since I'm actually like living in this lot with a sim, the seasons actually come up in build mode. Otherwise that doesn't actually happen. So like, even I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, that if you go to a lot that's not inhabited and try to build, even if the world is in fall, like you won't see that reflected in your build. So just a tip, if you're building and you want to see that, that's how you would see that. So if you download this lot and it's a different season, then it will not look quite the same. Or if you don't have the seasons pack, it won't look quite the same. And so I end up actually moving the pumpkin patch because it just wasn't fitting over there. Like it felt really weird by the road. Like it needed to move. And so I think it looks so much better back here. And then basically I go into debug and I place 1,000,000 pumpkins. I place so many pumpkins, the small, the medium, like oversized, like all of the pumpkins, all the different colors. And it was so funny. I was placing all these in, like somebody in chat was like, aren't there different colors? Like, yes, there are. Oops. So I put those in there. I also put some mushrooms out here, and then I overlap with some like viney overgrowth on the ground. I believe I actually put some rocks out here as well. So this is just like a ton of stuff. Of course, your Sims can go and interact with these pumpkins, but if you want to actually plant, you can just remove those and actually use those areas to plant stuff. But I just really wanted there to be a pumpkin patch here, so you can enjoy this aesthetic without having to actually plant anything. So you can just have that on your lot if you'd like to, or like I said, you can take it out. That's totally up to you. And then at this point, just trying to figure out, you know, how I'm going to figure out the rest of this space. You can see I brought a lot of like random tractor pieces and stuff out of debug as well, which we do actually end up putting there by that group of trees, and I think it ends up looking really cute. I do size it down because it was really huge and just took up way too much space. And then at this point, so I think the next thing I do is actually try to put stuff underneath those groups of trees. And I wish I knew exactly how this lot was going to turn out, because we do end up adding some trees in that front right corner as well. but I don't do that till like the end because I really was just figuring this out like one piece at a time and developing it as I was talking to chat, and they just like had such wonderful suggestions here. And then we end up like having this path also lead off into kind of the fun living space outside. And oh yeah, so adding some rocks in here. And I end up having, like I said, a fire pit, a grill, a big table, so lots of room. I can imagine this family having the rest of their family over and, you know, cooking out. Like there's just a ton of seating out here, just everybody hanging out for Harvest Fest. And it was so funny actually, like when I was playing like and taking screenshots, it was like, oh, Harvest Fest is tomorrow, and I was like, that's actually really convenient. But anyways, I did not take any pictures of Harvest Fest because, you know, they just throw all those seed packets everywhere and the gnomes, and like it just, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, that sounds really insane, but if you have seasons and you have Harvest Day, literally these gnomes just appear on your lot randomly, and you can either give them treats and stuff like that, but they can get mad at you, like, and electrocute you if they don't like the gift you give them. And also they drop like seed packets everywhere, so that is a good way to get some extra money. If you're new to The Sims or thinking about downloading seasons, like that's what will happen. And so I end up trying to figure out what I want to do here. Again, scrolling through debug, like pulling out objects and things that I think I might want, especially like around those trees. And then I do end up getting that really beautiful, like tipped over wheelbarrow, and it looks so cute there. I get some hay bales, I think, that I put around as well. Oh yeah, and the pack of like seed stuff or food. I don't exactly know what that bag is, but something farm related from Cottage Living. And then I end up also putting a pond on this lot, which is kind of insane. Like literally this is a packed lot, like there's so much here, and you see I'm like trying to figure out exactly where I'm going to put that living space, and like I decide, you know what, I need to add in a fence to help like figure this out and really give it some definition and like where that living space is going to be. And I end up actually putting the, not the like big wishing well they can actually wish on, but like the smaller one. I think it's only available in debug. I put that out by these trees as well, which actually this was so adorable. And then I put like the telescope out here as well. So there's a lot to do, I feel like, on this lot, and there's still space to add stuff if you want to. Like you could definitely add an easel or something out here, or even in the house. There's plenty of room, and I think there's a lot of room to expand. And so I'm just adding a little more foliage over here, just kind of filling out the space. This really was like a, you know, one piece at a time build, and I really did not think it was going to end up like this. I was like, oh, I'll build a cute little pumpkin, and then it just exploded into this, and I'm so happy that it did. And I also included some planter boxes that you can use to plant if, you know, you want to plant a few things, but you don't want to destroy the pumpkin patch. There is some space for that as well, and you can swap those out for bigger ones if you would like. And then I put some like pumpkins around this pumpkin carving station, and I do put a pumpkin on it. I think you may have to remove it in order to use it, but aesthetically I really liked it there, because if you're not going to use it, like, it kind of just looks cool to have it there. And then I end up using like tree stumps around the fire pit, and I think that works out nicely. I do get rid of that grill and swap it out and move it, because I was like, I don't know, something doesn't feel right. I don't like it over here. I was trying, I really was, but I was like, this isn't going quite right. Like, I just don't feel like it's coming together. And I did like the umbrella a lot, but I don't know, I wanted more space out there, and I kind of wanted it to be that like really large dining space out there. So I got one of the big wooden tables and like a bunch of chairs out there. I ended up using the chairs from like Cats and Dogs. So those kind of like rustic looking chairs, and then putting like a rug underneath it as well. And I use that rug that I just feel like belongs outdoors. Like the texture, to me, it just screams I belong outdoors. I don't know. I feel like I don't use a ton of different rugs outside, but that is one that I use. And maybe it's just because I've had a rug that kind of looks like that. I had a different pattern, but it looked like that. And I ended up using some of those pieces from Seasons, those decorative table pieces. It just looks so beautiful. I could imagine like playing and like having Harvest Fest here, like with a bunch of Sims. Like, I mean, how fun is that? Like, just, I'm so excited. And at this point I was looking for this one particular piece for the wall. Yeah, I never found it. I pulled out a bunch of other stuff thinking I might use other things, and I did find that pile of wood, which looked really cool over there. I figured, you know, with the fire pit, that kind of makes sense, as well as having the fireplace inside. And then at this point, I'm like, what do I put over here? We need a pond. And I overfill it and flood my lot. I had no idea that you could do that. And someone in my chat was like, yeah, you can. And I was like, I don't really use terrain like manipulation very often. I really need to, because you can do some amazing things with it. But I just like haven't really taught myself and spent a lot of time with it. And I do surround this whole pond with a bunch of foliage because I just really liked the way it looked, and I add some like rocks around it as well. So if your Sims actually want to like play in it and stuff like that, you'll probably have to move some of that around because the Sims probably can't get to it. But I just really liked the aesthetic it had there, and there will be like ducks swimming around in there, and it was really actually very beautiful out here when I was taking screenshots. And then I just end up adding some more foliage over there by the pond, and just kind of, you know, adding finishing touches here and there. I think I put a bench out by the pond as well. And I will say, if you download it, that like, I don't know, I was having a hard time getting 2 Sims to sit on the bench. It didn't like it. I don't know. I tried moving it. I tried flattening some terrain. I tried a bunch of things. So I don't know if my game was just mad at me or what, but I had a few issues with that. So, you know, you may have to mess around with that a little bit, or only have 1 Sim on that bench at a time. And then just adding some lights around because I wanted to make sure there was nice lighting everywhere. And then I felt like the front was just a little empty, so we just add a little pathway over to the well and add a little more of the foliage around. And I think that really kind of ties this whole space in together and ends up looking super nice. And we are getting close to screenshots. Be sure to stick around for those because they came out so beautiful. I'm in love with them. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And comment down below, like, what else do you want to see on the channel? Did you enjoy the video? I mean, basically anything. Say hi. I would love to read through all of those comments as well. And I hope you have a really sweet day. Bye, everybody.
Yesterday, there was sun and there was rain, beauty in the mundane. And as the light startled our eyes, we let go of disguise. And now, there's something in the air, and a sparkly shimmer on our skin.